What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and we are here with episode number 6 of our Velma review. This is a series that it's been a tough time to get through. I'm not gonna lie to you, and obviously it's very good for the channel, but still, even though it's so good for the channel, it's still not so good for my own mental well-being. But we're still making it through, and I'm taking my time with it because I just can't watch both episodes back to back. I just honestly don't have it in me. I kind of wish they released the episodes once a week instead of 2 per week. I think I would have preferred that, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, guys, before we get into the actual review, the same story as always. If you could bless this video with a long view duration and help me fight the YouTube algorithm like we have been, it's been helping the channel greatly, and it will continue to do so. Like the video and share the video with your friends. Give it a long view duration, and let's get into the review for episode number 6 for Velma. So this entire episode is all about family, right? So this entire episode is all about the parents. This is essentially like the issues that the kids have with their parents. You have a lot of stuff with Velma and her father. You have a lot of stuff with Daphne trying to find not only her original parents, but also dealing with issues with her current foster parents. And you have Fred doing a little bit of stuff here and there with his own father. So this entire episode is all about family, essentially, which is not inherently a bad thing. I'm going to play this first clip for you guys so you can kind of get the idea of where this episode is going.
One thing teen dramas get right, it's that nothing is ever actually a teenager's fault. We're all really just paying for the sins of our parents.
So that's a trope that a lot of teenage dramas do, where they basically blame everything on the parents, that nothing is the fault of the child, and obviously that's not true. The child is responsible for their own decisions. How they're brought up in their own environment obviously can influence those decisions, but at the end of the day, once you hit a certain age, you are definitely responsible for your own decisions. So they try to take a serious point. But then this episode goes really crazy, because this episode is going nuts online because of a certain scene that we're going to get into later in the episode. But it's really ridiculous what they do to try to showcase Velma getting the attention of her father. It's so bad. It's really, really bad. So in this scene, Velma's essentially complaining about her father and just how terrible he is. He doesn't show her any attention whatsoever. He's way too focused on work. He's way too focused on his girlfriend, which, to be honest with you, is true, though. Like, if you watch the series, you will notice that Velma's father does not really pay too much attention to her. He's always just too busy doing something else. But still, it doesn't excuse what Velma's going to do in this episode later down the road to try to get her father's attention. So afterwards, after she explains her relationship with her dad, she decides she wants to go talk to the principal, which is Norval's mom, about her mom's kidnapping, because in the last episode, we saw that there was a connection between the two. Then Velma ends up seeing her dad outside, and then this happens.
I think she's missing.
Are you kidding? That's even better, Sophie.
What's happening? People only wear fleece when they're looking for startup money, or, oh no, going hiking.
So there's a lot of like jokes with the stepmom, because the stepmom's like some sort of social media influencer, and she's always constantly getting pictures taken of herself. And Velma's father is like her simp, right? Like, is constantly I think it's alluding almost, I would say almost, to an OnlyFans girl, where the father is basically forced to take pictures of his girlfriend who wants to be an influencer online and takes all these sexy poses and stuff and all these different outfits. We've seen little hints of that here and there throughout the episode in the series. I haven't mentioned it until this one, but that's my assumption. Either that or she's just a regular kind of Instagram, fake model sort of a thing. And then Velma's stepmom mentions this.
To find a work-life balance, or risk messing her up the way he messed up, well,
So they're alluding again to the fact that the father did not spend any time with Velma, and that's why Velma is so messed up. And with this daughter that they just recently had, they don't want to mess her up like they messed up Velma. That's the thing that they keep trying to push in this episode. That Velma, the entire reason why Velma is as toxic as she is and as destroyed of a character as she is all because of her dad. That's essentially what they do. So we fast forward, and then Velma ends up seeing Fred, and then this happens.
Velma, want to ride to school? We got champagne, AC, and the driver has a funny story about how he survived the Khmer Rouge.
Sure.
So again, Velma has no issues taking stuff from Fred whenever it's in her benefit, but then when Fred ends up trying to show her affection after Velma initially wanted his affection so bad, that's when she wants to reject him and feel some sort of way. I mean, Velma is literally inconsistent throughout the entire series. It's one of those things that is very annoying as a character in character development, where the character is not consistent. That's very annoying. Like, if you're going to be a douche, just be a douche the entire way, right? If you're not going to have some sort of redemption arc, just be a douche the entire way and make it interesting. Otherwise, if you're going to take favors from Fred, obviously, it don't make it to just your benefit. Try to help Fred too in the long run. But no, she never does. And honestly, the one based character in this entire series, I gotta say, is Fred's dad. Fred's dad is the viewer, I would say. Fred's dad is the one who calls out the psychopaths, and he doesn't like Velma at all. Check this out. This happened.
Absolutely not, Frederick. Unless this is your selection for our hunt.
No, Father, I like her now. Have you heard of inner beauty?
That's a myth, you fool.
So I think Fred's dad is definitely the viewer in this scenario where he's calling out all the craziness that's happening on screen with Velma and Fred, and he's trying to save his son. He's trying to keep Fred a masculine man, but everybody around him is trying to turn him into a cuck essentially, and he's trying to fight it the best way that he possibly can. So then we got to fast forward, and Velma ends up meeting up with Norval's mom, who starts to explain the situation with Velma's missing mom, and then all of a sudden Norval bounces in with Gigi, and they're obviously making out because they want to, solidify the fact that Velma is no longer the interest of Norval. But ironically, Gigi does tell Norval to go help Velma not hallucinate. Check this out.
Go help Velma not hallucinate while she talks to your mom, but don't let her push you around. You're your own man.
Damn straight. And just real quick, when do you need me to have your pants mended by?
So it's ironic. So Gigi honestly is no better than Velma because Gigi likes to say that Norval needs to be his own man and not take orders from Velma. Meanwhile, he's literally taking orders from Gigi. So it's like, what are you doing? Like Norval just went from simping for Velma to simping for Gigi. It's sad. And the hairstyle is wild, man. We said that on Saturday Night Hypnosis on our live stream. The hairstyle is insane. It looks like literally a parasite on her head, but it is what it is. So she keeps talking about the scientist mother of Norval's mom, and as they get into it, she says things are about to get weird. Dr. Edna was a neurosurgeon who worked on, obviously that's neurosurgeon is people who work on the human brain, and that kind of ties into the whole thing that's going on with the missing brains. We fast forward. She was working on something that was allowing her to keep the brain alive outside of the body. And they make this whole big thing about a woman scientist because clearly women can't be scientists. It's the whole feminist talking points. It's ridiculous. Then they say her work caught the attention of a general. Check this out.
Her work caught the attention of Army General Harry Meeting, who felt he could use it to spy on what he believed to be the biggest threat to the American way of life.
Now, what do you think is the biggest threat to American way of life? This show, I swear to God, this show and the tropes are just so bad, it's almost laughable. It really is. Let me play this so you guys can see.
Oh, let me guess. Communist? Meat made from plants? Women's sports?
No, meddling kids.
So they're turning the meddling kids thing, right? As you guys know with Scooby-Doo has the whole meddling kids line, right? They're turning meddling kids into activists, literally. Like they're trying to say the biggest threat to the American way is activism because they obviously want you to be activists. They want all these people to be emotionally charged, not think for themselves, be NPCs, take the download and go out and go protest on stuff that they actually really don't care about. They're only pretend to care about because someone told them to be mad about it. That's essentially what they're talking about. And now they're trying to say meddling kids equals activists, and that's what the biggest threat to the American way, according to this white general. Yes, this is all purposeful. Every single thing is purposeful. Nothing is accidental in these TV shows. I promise you. Like if you think it's just coincidence, it's not coincidence. All right, you got the white general talking about defending the American way, and obviously these people in this show have a problem with the American way, so they have to say, oh yeah, the biggest problem is the meddling kids, the activists. Yeah, those are the biggest problems. As you see, what they're fighting for: peace, unity, all the typical nonsense. It's ridiculous. Let me keep playing it so you can see.
General Meeting tried to infiltrate them through hypnosis.
Shout out! I am in the. I am in Velma. I mentioned this also on the live stream. This is funny, man, because when I saw this, I was like, okay, this is the best part so far. Aside from Velma getting hit by a car, I think this is pretty cool. They put me into the TV show. Obviously, it's not me, but still, I just think it's pretty damn funny and it's ironic.
But this only works so long as no one ever snapped their fingers.
So they're trying to explain the whole snapping of the fingers thing back in that time, and it being the reason why people were snapping out of hypnosis. It's a weird connection. I don't really know why they decided to do that. And that's when he comes into this idea where if they can basically switch brains from a meddling kid and a soldier, check this out.
Head of a meddling kid. He called the program the Special Covert Operations Brain Initiative, or Scooby.
So they finally get a reference to the Scooby name in the show, and this was going to be coming for a while, okay? Now they're trying to tie it into this whole special operations with the whole brains thing. And this led to a conversation in the live stream that one of the subscribers on my channel, TJAP Steve, came up with the most insane but honestly best theory that I've ever heard. And I'm gonna make a separate video about it because I really want it to be true. But essentially, the theory says that Gigi's brain is going to get swapped into the body of a dog, and that's how Scooby-Doo is going to come to be in this TV series, and that's why Shaggy, aka Norville, has such a connection with Scooby-Doo. It is such a crazy idea, but it's so crazy that it just might work. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I want to see it happen. Give it to me. Give it to me. If I'm watching this stupid series, I need something crazy like that. So she goes and explains that they were trying to create the perfect spy, essentially, and that ended up getting her mother in trouble. She ended up going crazy in the basement of Fred's house, which used to be Norville's mother's old house before Fred's parents bought it. And after she was found at the basement, all dressed up in some crazy outfit, she was taken away to the insane asylum, and that was basically it. But of course, Velma has to sneak in a white people joke. Check this out.
I mean, playing God, removing brains, that's some white people shit.
She was always a trailblazer.
Like, how is that somewhat? Oh my God, man! They are so bad. They're so unbelievably bad with this stuff. But they're on the nose. It is what it is. Like they are. I think at this point they are definitely self-aware. Like they know what they're doing, right, with this whole entire series. And it doesn't surprise me to see certain lines in there. We've been seeing it for the past like 5 episodes now. So being in episode 6, I'm not surprised to continue to see something like this in it. So she ends up complimenting her and saying she's a really good detective. And ends up pulling out this box with her mother's name on it, which is supposed to be the key to understanding everything. And when she opens the box, she gets hit with a jump scare hallucination. And that's it. Honestly, I don't like the hallucinations. I think the hallucinations serve no real purpose. I think they're kind of cringy, to be honest with you. And I think they really don't do anything for the story other than try to delay it as best as they possibly can. And it's kind of like a trope for not really writing a good mystery story. So fast forward, now we have Daphne going to her biological parents, where we found out last episode are basically criminals who have this vendetta against the town for shutting down the theme park ride that they were a part of before and led them to the lives of being criminals. They also hint at there being an ulterior motive as to why they are using Daphne or trying to get Daphne back. They hint to it. They don't really mention it yet, but they hint to it that something else is going on as to why they need Daphne, but they tell you later on in the episode. Then you come to find out that Velma is okay after her hallucinations. She got stabbed by a needle that essentially brought her back. And she blames Norville for not saving her, which is crazy because Norville actually tried. Check this out.
I tried. I did 3 minutes of hilarious new stuff. You just didn't get the references because you haven't taken calculus yet.
Velma, I'm sorry, but I'm not telling you anything more about your mom.
So it's always Norville's fault, and that's one of the consistent things about this show. It is always going to be Norville's fault. It is never Velma's fault. Velma is just basically innocent throughout all this. And then, of course, she ends up hallucinating again one more time. Check this out.
Velma, your mom.
Norville, what am I gonna do?
And now she got 2 stabs. So it's very stupid. And she ends up having to confront the facts of why she's hallucinating in the first place. And she ends up realizing that it's not actually about her mom is necessarily the reason why she's hallucinating. It's for the simple fact that her father doesn't give her enough time. Her father doesn't give enough attention. And the main thing is her father doesn't believe her as to her mother being abducted. Her father thinks her mother left and wasn't actually abducted. And that's the thing. So that's when they decide to try to rekindle a relationship. She has a flashback about how her father would ignore her when she was young at the restaurant. And it really hurt her, and she didn't want to deal with it. And she really thinks that she wanted her dad to love her more. And so that's what she thinks. She thinks if she confronts that, that's going to allow her to get rid of her hallucinations. So fast forward, she ends up admitting that she has daddy issues. Check this out.
Gross.
Okay, so don't search for daddy issues and teenage girls.
Wow. This is, keep in mind, this is supposed to be teenagers, right? Like these are people who are very under 18, and they constantly are making sexual innuendo jokes. But I mean, it is what it is. At this point, Hollywood's going to do what they're going to do. Then we fast forward to Velma's dad, and we see this.
Don't even think about it, Iman. I haven't slept in 48 hours, so if you're serious about paternity leave, then you have to realize your family is more important than your phone. Oh, I am so posting that.
So again, A bit of irony. First off, thank God my animation is blocking something that you would normally see on screen because she is breastfeeding on screen. So that's well, she's pumping, but still that's ironic. But she makes a statement that's very ironic. And again, it's the whole thing about the women in the show not actually being consistent with what they say versus what they do. She's literally yelling at the father to not be on his phone and to take home life more serious and to not be so attached to his phone and his work. And yet she is so unbelievably attached to her phone, social media, where she has to post all the time, everything. She's literally getting pictures taken of herself 24/7. She took pictures of herself, even professional photos, even after she gave birth, literally within the hour after she gave birth. So it's like, what are you really doing here? But of course, this is the one thing they're consistent with how the women act. Then we get a scene with Daphne and her father, and the father talking about how they con people with these crystals, that they're not really real. They tell them that it treats anxiety, but they really don't treat anything. And that's how they're able to get the money that they get in order to try to leave. But then you get a little bit of backstory that starts to make you question these parents, because they essentially talk about how their party was ended when Daphne's foster parents raided them and stopped their criminal organization. And they try to say that Daphne was stolen by her foster parents, but we come to find out later on in the episode that that is actually not true. It's actually a little bit darker than that, and I'm glad they took a little bit of a darker tone in a show so absolutely stupid. And then this is a scene that a lot of people are like, wow, seriously, this is the reason why you came up with this? So apparently they finally confronted the reason why Daphne has such super orange hair. Check this out. It's actually pretty stupid.
Tell you why you have orange hair.
Oh my God, yes!
I smoked during pregnancy, like a lot. Like I should be dead.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you're alive.
So this is the super cringe scene that everybody's talking about online. This has to do with Velma and her father being at a strip club. Now, the reason why they're at a strip club is because this is initially the restaurant that they went to when Velma was a little kid. But the thing is, it obviously wasn't a strip club at that point, but now it is. But it's like, clearly you could have went to any other restaurant, but you decided to go with your daughter to a strip club knowing damn well it was going to be one. It's very weird. But this is where a father and daughter decide to want to rekindle some sort of relationship. So it just gets really, really strange. So Velma ends up getting pissed. Even though they're having a good time at first, and they admit that they're having a good time, Velma gets really pissed because her father ends up leaving to take what she thinks is a work phone call. So her idea to get his attention after the work phone call is to try to dance on stage. It's weird. Like, why would her brain even go there in the first place? But apparently it does. But she ends up running into Fred, and then Fred ends up trying to get her attention again, but Fred's dad comes to save the day. Check this out.
My son, he just asked the manager if there's a stripper gender pay gap.
There is. Guys make way less.
But thanks to you, Fred won't call it reverse sexism.
Honestly, I'm actually starting to enjoy Fred's dad. Fred's dad is super, super based in this TV series so far, and I really think that he represents the viewer very well. So Fred's dad ends up stealing Fred and taking him away, and then Velma ends up getting even more pissed, and she decides she wants to actually go on the fucking pole. Like, yes, she goes on the stripper pole, and she tries to get her father's attention, mind you. Her father's attention on the stripper pole. It's weird, man. Like, I don't even know why they decide to do this, but the reaction to Velma being on the stripper pole is pretty funny. Check this out.
Oh, yeah. Keep it all on.
Show me nothing, baby.
Velma, what are you doing up there?
I really like, why even do this, right? Like, why even do this whole thing? And then they do it because they want to make a joke against strippers. And the joke essentially is that every stripper, according to Velma anyway, is doing what they always do, which is trying to get their daddy's attention, and that's why they're stripping. That's the only reason why they're on the pole. It's so ridiculous. And honestly, I'm glad they didn't even go further with it, like make her like actually strip or something. It would have been insane, but I wouldn't have put it past them, to be honest with you, to do that. So Velma's father ends up realizing the situation, but he tells her that he didn't actually go to take a work phone call. He went to call Sophia, the girlfriend that he's dating, to tell her that he needs to take his paternity leave and spend that time with Velma instead. So Velma ends up feeling really stupid, and then they end up spending a ton of time, and we get this whole montage of Velma spending time with her dad and all the other kids spending time with their parents, even Fred too. And they show this because they want to make a connection between all the parents before they pull the rug under from you. So Norval ends up blaming his father for the reason why he's a beta simp. Yes, he blames his father for the reason why he is a simp, which is hilarious. So he ends up trying to go against the grain and not being a simp. Fred ends up being not a feminist anymore, or at least he's trying to convince people he's not by dating the stripper girl from the club, ironically. So Fred is back to his normal ways. At least that's how it seems, but it's probably not going to last very long. Velma's passed out drunk with drinking with her dad, because that's a thing. They clearly want kids to drink with their parents. It's just weird. Like I don't get the connections that they're trying to make here, or the kind of relationships that they've had with parents. But then Velma ends up finding out that her father lied. Completely lied, of course, and wanted to go back to work. So he ends up sneaking to work to try to get more work done. And Velma gets pissed and finding out that he lied on that phone call, that the phone call was a work phone call. And she ends up getting so pissed that she leaves, goes back to the principal and says that she's ready to see what's in the box. And then we get introduced to non-simp Norval. Check this out, which I still think is a play on the T-Birds from Greece, but let's see.
You're wearing a leather jacket?
I stole it, baby.
Off a teddy bear in the mall.
Don't pour my milk.
So on the back of the leather jacket, it says Mr. Bad Bear, right? And once again, I think this is a reference to the T-Birds from Greece, because you got the leather jacket, the symbol on the back, the shades in the front, a high school drama. Like, I just think it is a reference, but I could be looking into things that aren't actually there. But I think it is. So she asks to see what's in the box, and when she opens the box, there's no hallucinations, thankfully, because she's confronted seemingly what she needed to confront. And then they go into the backstory about how Velma's mother discovered whose daughter Dr. Edna was, and they realize they put two and two together. She ends up going under Fred's house on Christmas Eve, and as she's doing it, you realize that she gets abducted after she finds a secret wall under Fred's house. She gets abducted by what people think is the killer, but she says that it's the ghost of Dr. Edna Perdue. So they're bringing back the whole ghost thing, which is very, typical of Scooby-Doo. She says it's a ghost. Velma's not buying it. She really doesn't think it's a ghost, but she ends up wanting to go under Fred's house anyway, and she goes to his house to do so. Now we get this dark scene where Daphne confronts her father as they looking like they're getting ready to leave, and then the father ends up admitting that Daphne was just basically insurance for them, that they wanted to use her as collateral to be able to escape without her parents coming to try to stop them. And by parents, I mean foster parents. It's insane. But then you come to find out the gun gets shot away, and you come to find out that the moms were onto them the entire time. They knew exactly what was going on, of course, and that they were letting Daphne do what she was doing so that they could get closer to the criminal organization group, and they get busted. Not only that, Brenda, the tank top for one of the dead girls from the beginning of the series, is found on the person of her father. So that makes it even more interesting, because they start to allude at the fact that he could potentially be one of the people who was in charge of this whole murder mystery. But her mom ends up escaping through the cave, and then we fast forward and we see Velma's dad looking for Velma. Obviously, he can't find her because she is at Fred's house. So she barges into the house without his permission, and then they end up going downstairs. But then you have Simp Norval, or I should say anti-Simp Norval, having himself a little bit of a scene. Check this out.
As a man answers his phone when he damn well feels like answering his phone, Lamont.
Okay, well, Gigi almost died. She was stung by a bee digging her pants out of the garbage at school, and the nurse was out of adrenaline shots.
Now, this whole scene here is the reason why I'm believing the fan theory that T-Jap Steve in our live stream came up with. I really am, because if Gigi dies and they end up swapping her brain into I'm telling you, I'm with this. I am with this idea 100%. It needs to happen. Please make it happen. If it doesn't happen, I'm gonna be so sad. But Gigi supposedly almost died, and then we're almost towards the end of the episode where Velma and Fred discover the hidden door, and when they do, it falls on top of them. Daphne ends up getting pissed and realizing that her parents did not steal them from her, but in fact, what happens was her actual original parents, when they were busted originally, they basically had a choice whether to take the cargo or to take Daphne, and they decided to take the cargo and leave Daphne. And then Daphne was found by the police officers, the two girls who were on the tail of the gang, and they decided to take her in because they felt bad, and that's why they never told her the truth. Velma ends up recovering from the door that fell on top of them, and then Velma's dad ends up finding them at the bottom of Fred's house, where they all go downstairs together to the old laboratory. And then when they go to the old laboratory, she finds a piece of paper that says Jinkies on it and is written by her mother. And the handwriting is discovered by her dad. And the hallucination goes away because Velma's dad finally believes Velma that her mother was actually abducted. And it's only because of the handwriting that's on that piece of paper. And they had to end this episode on a completely cringy line, something called "My truth." You believed my truth. This is something they say all the time. Check this out.
Okay, Because when you saw I was willing to die for my truth, you finally came around. Because you do love me.
Yeah.
That whole my truth thing is such a BS line. There's no such thing as my truth. There is the truth, and that's it. Either you're telling the truth or you're not. It's not my truth. Your version of the events doesn't make it your truth. It's just your version. That's it. It's not an actual truth. Then you have Velma actually saying Jinkies for the first time in history in this episode, and that is how the episode ends. And then you get a little bit of a cliffhanger at the end where you see Daphne's mother running through the cave trying to escape. She finds a necklace, and when she does, you see this big dude come out from behind her, and we are to assume that this is the killer, and the screen goes to black, and that's the end of the episode. So obviously the killer is still on the loose. This is a series that I think is going to 10 episodes, so we still have 4 more episodes to go in this crazy review of Velma. But with that being said, I'm gonna have to give good old Velma. I think this episode was a little more serious. It definitely took a little bit different of a tone. It had some parts in it that I actually enjoyed. Very few. But there was some lines here and there that I found extremely funny. So I'm going to give it basically another 1.5 out of 10. And those couple of points that the show gets is simply because there was a couple of lines in there that I thought were actually funny, that actually took some sort of comedic idea to come up with. Other than that, the rest of the show was terrible as expected. They took 6 episodes to finally get to the entire point of the show. Like the entire point of the show is supposed to be the murder mystery, and the murder mystery hasn't been mentioned since episode 1. Like very rarely. It's completely taken a sidestep to the actual side plots, or what's supposed to be the side plots. Like Velma's mother disappearing is the main plot, whereas I think the murder mystery was supposed to be the main plot. So I don't really know what's going on here, but at least they finally came full circle back to it, and hopefully they continue it, and let's find out what exactly is going on. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy, and if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.